District 4. At your leisure, sir.
Yes, I will do that. I had to find the mute button. We will open this special meeting for Fire District 4 to discuss possible RFA formation with Everett Fire. We have the minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any concerns about that?
The ones that are in the packet that we received for this meeting really aren't the ones for our fire district.
That is correct. You should have the correct.
Right. So I would move that we approve the special or the regular meeting minutes that we have for our district.
All right.
That we've received.
Good. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. So on with our discussion.
All righty. I'd like to back up to the introductions piece again, if that'd be okay, and maybe go around the room. And I know it's always a little awkward when we're all on virtual, but it's important to try to take a couple minutes to try to get to know each other a bit. Today, I've been thinking about a couple questions. One's related to work, one's related to fun. And the work question was, everybody on this call is either a public employee, a public official, or somebody used to be one, or is an elected official. And elected officials, y'all had to make a courageous decision to actually stand up and run for office at some point. And I'm wondering if you can encapsulate what that was about for you. Was it about giving back to the community? Was it about a value or an issue that you were like, I really want to do more on this, and I can do that from a better vantage point if I'm an elected official in this jurisdiction? Or was it something else entirely? I think that's always something that I'm interested in, because it is a courageous step to put yourself out there for office. And it's interesting to understand a bit about how you got there. So that would be sort of the work question. And the fun question is, what is one of the things you were most looking forward to doing as we get this pandemic sort of in the rear view mirror behind us? It seems like a sunny Friday afternoon is good to contemplate that. So I thought I'd throw a funner one in there. So, and I can see some wheels turning there. But if you're willing to respond to those, that would be great. I'm open as to who wants to go first.
Karen, I'll jump in. This is Cassie. I ran for office because I felt pretty passionate about some of the challenges that Everett was experiencing, and thought that I had the skill set that was missing for the council at the time. And then I kind of did the same thing when I ran for mayor, just trying to utilize my skill set for the good of the community, and feeling like I had something to contribute and could make a bigger difference from this seat. And I'm most looking forward to traveling. After the pandemic, I love to travel, and that obviously has been halted by COVID. So I look forward to going to new places again. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Who would like to follow on from that? Anybody?
I'll jump in quick, because that first question is a little awkward. I was motivated to run by concerns about budget. First time I ran, I actually ran against Councilmember Stonecipher. Obviously, that didn't pan out the first time, so ran again in a subsequent year. So anyhow, but glad to have Councilmember Stonecipher on the council too. And then looking forward to, I guess, socializing. I just, I've had to stay away from people so much, and just looking forward to being able to have, my some guys I've known for 30 years come over and play Risk some night, or a couple of couples I know come over and play card games or whatever. So anyway.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much. Anyone over on District 4 side want to go first here?
I'll go first. I can go. Oh, go ahead, Evan.
All right. The reason that I ran is also a little bit awkward. The level of service was the main reason that I really wanted to get involved, and just really being able to give back to the community as well. So, and then also, I think traveling as well would be one thing that I can't wait to get back once this pandemic is over, is take the family somewhere a little bit nicer weather-wise. And
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Flapp?
Oh, yes. Well, I decided to run because I came to some of the fire district meetings and I was the only one there from the public. And even when I signed up to run, I was the only person who signed up until like Thursday or Friday of that week to sign up. So I had done things with the school district before and went to a number of meetings with the city. So I just thought this might be a way of giving back also to the community and helping out. Hopefully this summer we can, my wife and I can travel. We have a 50th college graduation. That's a year off, and that's a year late. But back in Nebraska, we hope to attend. And then later on in October, hope to go back to St. Louis and for my 45th anniversary graduating from the seminary, Concordia Seminary in St. Louis.
Wow, that's some road miles you got ahead of you, sir.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got a few frequent flyer miles from the past. So anyway, so that might help anyway. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmoker?
So the reason I ran is because after 24 years as a volunteer firefighter EMT, one night I heard they were going to fire my chief, who happened to be Evan's father, by the way. And they did. The Board of Commissioners at the time fired the chief. And I'm on record and quoted in the newspaper as saying that was like the worst thing they ever did. But I got involved because up till then, I still don't like politics. But I got involved because there were some issues going on with the department, and we formed a task force, and with representation from the board, from the local, from the volunteers, and we started working on issues. 2 years later, one of the members of the board moved out of the district, and so it left an unexpired term of 2 years. And so I ran for that position. And what was interesting at that time was that even though I had said that all three of those board members were stupid, basically, all three of those board members supported me, endorsed me for the election, as well as the local, as well as the volunteers. And so that's, I got involved. I didn't want to lose the momentum that we had going. And my wife had been after me after 25 years. She'd been after me to retire and not go running out of the house in the middle of dinner all the time. So, so it kind of worked out that way. What I want to do after this thing is over, I don't know. I think we're planning a trip to Hawaii sometime later this year. So that could be something.
That could definitely be something. Sounds good. All right, thanks all. Let's see, staff members that are on the call, maybe we can do a quick round of introductions there. Remind us what you do, where you are, and we'll go through that. Maybe start with the District 4 side of things. Chief? No?
I'm there.
There
Chief
you
Waller. I'm still the chief of District 4 as far as I know.
Else from District 4, we have Christine and Whitney, I think. I don't know, Christine.
Administrative assistant, office specialist, person that types.
The necessary part to success here. Thank you. Whitney?
I'm Whitney Mansfield, lieutenant with Snohomish Fire and president of Local 2694.
Thank you. And thank you for being here today.
Thanks.
And I think that's it on the District 4 side. Maybe Everett. Chief DeMarco, you want to start us down that list?
Sure. Dave DeMarco, still fire chief in Everett.
And we're glad about that. Mike?
Mike Calvert, I'm the Assistant Chief of Operations here in Everett.
Maybe Curtis and Matt?
This is Curtis Brown, Fire Marshal for the Everett Fire Department.
Thanks, Curtis. Matt?
This is Matt Mueller, Administrative Assistant to the Chief for the Everett Fire Department.
Great. Bill Scherer?
Bill is running our YouTube. He usually can't talk when we're doing that.
Hi, Bill. Thank you. All right. Who am I missing here? I think that might be everyone. If I've missed anybody, speak
Christine?
up. She did manage to say hello a bit earlier. Okay. All right. We've had District 4 has approved the meeting summary. We'll ask if the Everett folks are okay with the meeting summary from their side. Today's focus, we're going to respond to a question asked last time about our.
Excuse me, I have a question about the minutes that you presented.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, under the mayor's comments on page 3 that we had here, the second sentence didn't seem to make sense to me when I read it there. It's probably the under closing comments. Yeah. It says she also wondered several RFA governance.
Yeah, that issue is, it looks like it's in both sets of minutes. I think just the word how, wondered how several, or why. Maybe why, Mayor Franklin? Why?
I'm sorry, I don't know where you're referencing right now, so I'm trying to look for it.
Yeah, it's under the closing comments roundtable portion of the meeting summary. And this same issue is in both versions of the minutes. Right. There's a comment. We just have a little summary of what everybody's comments was. I think we're missing a pronoun or something.
Yeah, I think it's why several RFA governance should change fairly quickly, or yeah, just trying to understand why and how. It's kind of, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Makes it clear.
Do you want to make that correction to the minutes in District 4 as well?
The ones they approved were already that way.
Oh, the ones in my packet are not. So, okay. All right. Anything else for the Everett representatives on the meeting summary? Thumbs up on that? Okay. Thank you. Okay, communications update. This is just in the event anyone was checking in from the public on the websites that we have. Wanted to bring that to anyone's attention, and I'll just ask the chiefs if they could let us know what the story is there.
Everett has an email address on the website, and it takes to the general fire department inbox. And unless something's coming in this afternoon, Matt, we have not received any email.
Thank you. Chief Waller.
We have not received any.
Thank you. Okay, so this gets us down to questions from meeting 2. And in the last couple of pages of your packet, had pages 18 and 19. Here is the data that was gathered by someone, with many thanks, in the Everett Fire Department. And so we asked folks, when we went out, there are 13 RFAs in the state, and they were miraculously able to contact 12 of them. So the data we have here is for the 12 of them. The first one we haven't heard from is West Benton, but online there is information that suggests it took them several tries to actually get the RFA ballot measure passed. So that's in there, but we'll follow up with the final answers once we hear from them. But as to the other 12, we've color-coded and put in the information trying to respond to your questions, and you can see we tabulated there on 19. So 12 RFAs, a third of them, 4 of them have a benefit charge in place now. And of those 4, 3 of them put that on the ballot at the same time they asked the voters to approve the creation of the RFA. And they were all successful on the first try. So we know of 2 of the 12 that were not successful on their first try, but neither of them did have a benefit charge as part of the proposal. And 1 of the 4 RFAs that has a benefit charge in place, and that would be South County RFA, asked the voters for that a couple of years after they were created. So I'm hoping that responds to the questions from last time. It's kind of an interesting pile of data, but that's that. Any questions or comments? Thanks, Scott. Okay, then now we're going to turn it over to the chief for the deeper dive on operations and staffing and service levels. And chiefs, do you want to take questions as you go, or would you rather have them held to the end? What's your preference?
Questions as we go is fine with me.
Okey-doke.
Chief Marco.
That's fine with me too. Don, are you going to bring the slideshow up, or do you want me to do that?
If you don't mind, that'd be easier probably if you do it.
Yeah, give me 1 second to get it up. All right, well, I'll run the slideshow today, and we're going to let Don do most of the talking since I tend to flap my gums a lot.
We're
It's probably a challenge to me. We're not seeing your screen, Chief.
Here we go.
There we go. So we're just going to do a quick comparison of our administrating and staffing, not detailed about station staffing, but more generalized. So we have pretty similar administrative staffing models, as you can see, the difference being Everett having city departments to do that we either have to put in an outsourced or internal. So for Everett, internal means within the fire department budget, obviously city department, city function, but not within their department budget, and then outsourced. So you can see payroll is very similar, benefits, service, billing, budgeting has a slight difference. Same with legal, ours are all outsourced, so you can just go through that, and a lot of our stuff has to be outsourced or divided up amongst other functions within our department because of our size. I think kind of some of the key ones that for us that we see as potential advantages are like IT, fleet maintenance, purchasing, where we can probably get some efficiencies. Other than that, you know, probably pretty standard operations is all within our department. Training is mostly within our department. Outsourced trainings for both of us are probably very similar things like diversity training and things like that we will probably both outsource and probably would, whether we combined or not. Any questions on that slide? Okay. Get to our staffing models. And first we'll just kind of go through our administrative staffing. You can see that our command staff is nearly the same, which would, you know, could ask a question why, with Everett being so much larger than us, why are our command staff similar? Basically what happens if you look at where District 4 has no division chiefs or other department heads, all that work gets funneled up or down. And so instead of having division chiefs, we have more executive chiefs. You can see we don't have a fire marshals or prevention division at all. So that work doesn't get done in our department, where within Everett, you have 6 folks working on it. Again, that's one of the ones that we've identified as a good place to work together on. Budget and project manager, Everett has one of those. Again, that gets funneled up in District 4 to the executive chiefs. Data analysis, again, that's where we talk about efficiencies. We do not do data analysis. Basically, we don't outsource it. We don't move it around. And so where we talk about efficiencies, although that might be an additional cost to an RFA if we added a person in there or did it, the efficiencies come where we can make better decisions operationally or throughout the organization by having that information. So the efficiencies aren't always directly within the thing we're talking about. Payrolls, similar, accounting, office specialist, EMS billing, all the rest is fairly similar. Draw your attention to fleet mechanic. That's where we outsource all of our stuff to another agency, which would be another an interesting place to look at combining. Any questions on that one? Okay. Again, the operational staffing is pretty well just proportional. That's where there's probably the most similarity, and it really is just proportional. A couple of places to note where I say 0, parentheses, 3 drivers. We do not have a driver's position, so that's why I put 0, but we have 3 people doing the job. It's just not a separate position within our CBA. Again, in District 4, you can see under firefighters, paramedics, and firefighters, our numbers vary. We are not large enough to have a consistent daily staffing that does not change. The same amount of people change, but their certification level ebbs and flows depending on who's on vacation and sick. And so we have minimums and maximums. And again, with a large organization, that would be where we could gain efficiencies in having the same staffing every day, and you can build better operational plans when you have consistency.
I'd like to
Any
ask a
questions
question.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Flat. I was wondering if the Everett Fire folks have any kind of chaplains, even a volunteer or anything like that as part of their program?
We do. We have, currently there are 4 chaplains. They're City of Everett volunteers. We supply them with uniforms, training, personal protective equipment, and then they are available on call, and they are paged using, they're paged from the dispatch center using Active 911. Right now there are only 4. We have 2 openings, and the entire program has been on a safety stand down for the pandemic, and we are literally this week or next in the process of turning it back on as the chaplains have become vaccinated and we have a better understanding of the pandemic. But yes, the short answer to your question is yes. And we have room for up to 6, and we currently have 4.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions about the daily operational staffing?
Chief, this is Karen. I had a quick question. So you don't have a driver's position. Does that mean you guys are sending a different number of folks out on every truck, or they just have different positions?
No. So we have drivers. Somebody has to drive the truck. We don't have a position that gets paid a different rate in the CBA. So the person's there, they're just not considered drivers separately, where Everett has a different pay rate in the CBA. So they have the promoted position called driver.
So but the bodies on a truck are the same number.
The bodies on the truck doing the work is all the same.
Okay, thank you.
So this goes into just, we picked a 10 and a 20-year employee, a basic firefighter, to show labor agreement wise contractually how close we are. And we feel we're pretty close. As you can see, Everett has less hours. District 4 has more pay, and then it comes down to we normalize the pay by how much the pay rate is contractually if you worked all your hours. And then down what an effective pay rate is after you take the vacation hours out. One thing I would like to note is you're going to hear terms called Kelly days and debit days and all kinds of things about hours. And really that's just can confuse the issue. Basically, you have 2 options in the fire service that are used, a 3-platoon system, which is scheduled for 2,900 hours a year, and a 4-platoon system which is scheduled for the 2,190. Everett's an exception that actually has a 4-platoon system that hits right on the hours that they contractually have. Most places, the contractual hours are different. As you can see, our contractual hours are 25/48. It does not match one of those 2. And so debit days and Kelly days are just days that are used to get the contractual hours equal to the hours worked. And so 25/48 is how many hours that they contractually work. So if you see, we're about $4 an hour difference when we get down to the very end.
Chief, I'll just add for the benefit of the Everett folks and for everyone really is when the worry about the difference in the labor agreements between the 2 unions comes up as a concern, and the perception that the Everett firefighters are more expensive than the Snohomish firefighters. As everyone knows, when you negotiate these contracts, it comes down to the jurisdictions that you compare to, And this exercise that produced this data is the same exercise that you do in preparation for negotiations when you do comparison of benchmark employees at different ranks in different years. We were, even Don and I were worried about this when we were talking about this early, but when you do the work on this, we were pleasantly surprised to find that a Snohomish firefighter and an Everett firefighter are very comparably compensated. So for what that's worth.
So the fire service kind of has two tracks. If you look at all contracts, less pay, less hours, more pay. And I think the biggest difference of between Everett and Snohomish is we're just kind of on the, I would say, the more extreme ends of each of those. So total cost is not different. We got there different ways.
So it's just a question. This is Cassie. I assume then if under a merged department, we would be a bigger department, then our comparables would be bigger comparables, and then that would put us closer to where Everett is, or just above where Everett is. I mean, just what is it? How would that change?
I haven't looked at the numbers, but my experience of Everett being an old comparable to where I worked, my guess is that adding Snohomish into Everett would not change the Everett's comparable. So we would just fall into the traditional comparables that Everett has been for a long time.
Got it.
Yes,
Thank you.
I agree with that too. The comparable set that Everett is currently using would not change with the addition of 40 or 50 more employees.
Okay, thank you.
So kind of our takeaways amongst the whole thing, we talk about efficiencies, and I just want to kind of point out that as we talk about efficiencies, it's probably adding people to create those efficiencies. The things that we do that are externalized, whether it's within the city of Everett's other departments or that we pay outsource, we can get more efficiency by internalizing them into an RFA that only looks at the fire service. Our payroll, our benefits, a lot of what we do is a little bit different than other city departments and other normal labor force. And so being able to internalize those, we can gain efficiencies. Merging the labor groups, again, we are very close in TCC. I'm not going to say it's easy, because we are there on different spectrums, but it is not an unobtainable task to merge those labor contracts. Again, the economy of scale, when we get to things like IT, HR, data analysis, facilities maintenance, vehicle maintenance, is where we can realize the reasons that we want to merge these organizations. And then again, like I said, the larger workforce not only helps Everett's having a hard time with overtime and sick leave, but us in District 4, we have a hard time maintaining a constant service level. So our every day is something different, which is harder for company officers and chief officers to plan for when it's not always the same. So merging those labor forces and gaining a larger labor force allows us to maintain a constant and not have the ebbs and flows, the highs and lows. Dave, Chief DeMarco, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that the mayor and I spoke briefly last week after our last meeting, and she asked, because we're talking about efficiency, and the Everett Fire Department, as we've sort of demonstrated already, runs very lean, and administratively we're already very, very efficient. But we do pay millions of dollars each year in overtime, and access to a larger workforce likely would give us a lower overall operating cost. And so from the Everett perspective, when we talk about efficiency lies in the body of number of firefighters that the department employs. And as the chief said for District 4, they're looking for consistent staffing, and we are looking for a pool of staffing that is larger and therefore, in our case, a little bit lower cost. So that's more, there's efficiencies on both sides. They're just different and derived differently.
So Chief, this is Cassie again. I think it would be good for Everett team, maybe all of us, to understand the staffing needed by other Everett city departments to support the fire department currently. I think that would help us anticipate the staffing that may be needed for the fire district. But you know, how many, you know, District 4 outsources it all, and we use city departments that are used by other city departments. And so what is the amount of time our IT team members in FTEs spend on Everett Fire? What is the amount of time finance and HR? And that kind of would help me understand the, you know, what would disappear from the city, that, you know, those team members would have time to focus on other areas of the city, and also help us plan what the staffing of a fire authority would need to look like for the support services.
Yeah, we can work on that. Also, I guess I'll just draw attention to the top line of this last slide where it says, you know, merged organization requires internalization, and we would need to do a much deeper dive. We need permission to go past these first 5 meetings to give you a detailed analysis of what a proposed org chart would look like. But we can tell you that the head count of people in administration on both sides would not need to increase, that we believe that the total number of employees, first, no one will lose their job. And second, we would not need a massive expansion in the number of people doing the work overall in order to be able to operate the department. But to be able to give you a detailed answer to your question of exactly what that looks like, we're going to need more meetings.
But you would need to hire someone in HR and finance. I mean, those people don't currently exist in either department, right? So those are the extra bodies that would need to be hired, not additional chiefs and division chiefs. And I get that. I get that. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. All right, I'll put the screen down unless anybody wants to see some of these slides again.
Anyone else have any questions? It was a short presentation, but it hopefully highlighted a few of the distinctions. And I think Cassie's questions are good. You know, ultimately, you have policy decisions about whether you're going to bring some of those admin services in-house to the RFA or contract out. So it's hard to do an exact head count at this point in the game. That'll be a decision for you all. Should we go beyond this phase? But it's exactly the right question to be wondering about how many more bodies, how much more help will we need? What does that do to the costs when we combine compared to where we are today?
Well, and I think for Everett, it just makes a lot of sense. It helps us understand the impact of losing the fire department on the of city services. And so, yeah.
Yeah, do you end up with people that are surplus because all their work, you know, went out the door? That's something notable at your end of things as well. Yeah, good point. Any other questions or observations from that? Well,
I actually have a question because I had a conversation with one of our support staff who's an AFSCME represented employee, and this is just a really simple question. Are the administrative personnel or the support personnel at District 4 represented? And if so, who are they represented with, through?
They are not representative. Our firefighters are the only local that we have at District 4. So all of our administrative staff are under personal services contracts directly with the district.
Okay, thank you.
Is that true at Everett, Dave, or your admin folks are unionized?
They're represented.
Okay.
We have a handful of both. We have exempt administrative staff and we have a few AFSCME represented administrative staff as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, we are just whipping right through this agenda. We are all the way down to the closing comments roundtable, which includes the 6 committee members. and the labor representatives. So it's a chance to raise questions next time. I'm just looking forward a bit. Next Friday, our focus is on a deeper dive on finance. What are the financial obligations of each of the agencies, and how are they comparable? And so we'll be looking at that. So as we're closing out today, if there's something that is of particular interest to you with respect to a deeper dive on finance, go ahead and flag that for us so we can try to be responsive in the presentation. And otherwise, any comments or other questions that you have that we could follow up on next week, that would be great. And then we can return to our normal scheduled sunny day programming on a Friday afternoon.
Karen, can I start? This is Whitney. Sorry.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
I don't know if everybody on here is aware, but we do have a countywide interlocal agreement between the local unions for the International Association of Firefighters of how a merger like this would take place. It kind of gives us an outline of how the positions would transfer over and the basic structure of the way things would move together. There would be a lot of fine points that we would have to work out between the two locals in negotiating those contracts and moving forward, but there is a basic structure that we would follow based on that interlocal agreement.
Thank you, Whitney. Anything else you would note for us about that? I mean, it's a challenge to bring any of these units together, but you guys have been thinking about it, I assume.
Yeah, I think that Chief Waller's presentation and Chief DeMarco's presentation kind of highlighted the two biggest issues, which are they work a lower amount of hours, and we make a little bit more money, but we work more hours for that money. So I think those typically would be the biggest issues that we would have to come to agreement on. I don't know that I don't want to get paid less, and I'm sure that Paul and his group don't want to work more. So, figuring out those things would be the biggest challenge.
Thanks for breaking that down. That's super clear. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to chime in here as we go around the committee, and also hear from Paul? Although I don't think Paul's on the line today, so we may miss out hearing from him.
I got a message from Paul. Paul's not here today.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Schmoker, I'll just ask, any closing comments or questions about finance we should be mindful of as we prepare for next week?
Only I might just comment on the combination of the locals. I think looking at the numbers, it seems like we're pretty close. And you're messing with, you're moving this piece over here and that piece over there. But I think the end result, as Whitney said, he doesn't want to get paid any less. They don't want to work anymore. I think they're so close right now that it's not really, I think they'll be fairly easy to work out. I mean, it's not going to be slam dunk, but it should be fairly easy. As far as the administrative staff and adding or taking away staff from either the city or the districts, I think Chief DeMarco's comments about that are accurate. When we get down to the details, we'll know more, but on the surface, it looks like that's pretty accurate. So that's about all I have to say about finances.
Thank you. Who wants to go next here? Any quick comments on the way out here?
I was just as Commissioner Flath, and I was wondering about the local unions. Are there contracts expiring near each other, or are they, is there some distance between them?
I believe they both expire at the end of this year. There's actually 3 contracts, as our battalion chiefs have a separate contract. So 3 contracts all expiring at the end of 21.
So those will be negotiated long before we do any combination of districts. So once that happens, my guess is, and Whitney is more in tune with this than I am, but I'm guessing that in working out the details of the combination of the districts, that will it won't have anything to do with when contracts expire. They'll be renegotiated as part of the merger, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah, my understanding is that the contract would not be negotiated until the merger is approved. So until that happens, there's nobody for us to bargain a contract with, really. So while we would try to figure out the basic points of that, the finer points would have to wait until the actual approval of the RFA happened.
Right.
Typically,
So to be just a little bit more clear, nothing is going to change until we get to a point where we decide to go to the voters. At that point, we may start adjusting a few things, but until it's actually approved, nothing's really going to change.
yeah, and if anybody, the process, typically we do effects bargaining first after the approval. That gets done, and then you have to go right into bargaining the new contract, which is hopefully, if you did the job right, pretty much based off the effects bargaining.
And it can be difficult to pull them together. And from listening to the folks in South County, it took them like 18 months after the RFA stood up to get their units together. It was a lot, and it impacts giving people promotions and things like that. So, and scheduling people for working different shifts. So it's definitely something that, as Whitney said, you can't really negotiate unless you get somebody on the other side of the table. And that means the RFA has to be stood up. And usually in order to accelerate your receipt of taxes, you will want to stand up your, you want to go to the voters in a few months before you start receiving your taxes, but that sort of typically means people go to the voters in August, and then the effective date for the new RFA is October 1st. And that's when you could start negotiating, and your RFA levy monies would start to be imposed then in January. So financially, it's fast, and that's what you want. But on the labor side, it's hard to move that quickly. There's nobody on the other side of the table, and you can't start negotiating until you're there, and you're operating. You have the responsibility to operate all together, but you're still living with two contracts.
It generally means that some of the people in this call will be working a lot of Friday afternoons at some point in the future. And some of you, not so much.
All righty. Who would like to offer anything else as we close out this topic and anticipate talking about finance next week? Anyone? I want to hear from everybody. Here goes Cassie.
Chief DeMarco, I would encourage you to reach out directly to Councilmember Stonecipher, who's not here, as she may very well have some questions that may help in crafting your and Chief Waller's presentation next week. So just wanted to encourage you to do that. I feel like I've spent a lot of time kind of thinking about this with you, so I don't have any questions at this time, though I'm sure I will next week when we get the presentation. Thanks.
For the benefit of everyone in the call, and if you have thoughts you want to share today that we can, as Karen said, work on for next week. But we designed these 5 introductory meetings specifically to lead into this conversation about finance. And we apologize that some of these meetings have been very basic, because we know that you know how a fire department operates. We know that you know how a city operates. But the next meeting is the important one. And the next meeting is the one where we would describe the general framework, the financial framework that would impact the people that live in our communities. And so, you don't have to answer this right now, but our intention right now is to give you the rules that we would have to live under, in a fire authority environment. And then we will model in a very, very basic way 1 or 2 scenarios that could play out with your understanding that that the level of detail you're actually going to want to make a decision is going to require a consultant and more meetings. So what you should expect a week from now is a very umbrella financial statement about what your options are for you to take home with you in the month of May to deliberate on whether you would like to discuss this further or not. But that's what you can expect for next Friday.
Yeah, I think when I think about Everett, you know, the main concerns that I have as one of our elected leaders is how do we maintain the quality of services that our residents currently enjoy and increase those as needed, and how do we do that without costing more than we currently do. And I think that these fire district or the RFAs are potentially a tool to do that. But I you know, having some scenarios that really map that out, and I know we won't be able to dig into the finance, but to the level of detail we want. But those are the concerns that are in the back of our minds: is how do we continue to maintain and protect the service levels and the quality of service as we move forward, and how do we do that as cost effectively as possible for each individual resident and taxpayer.
Yeah. So next week you will get the answers to those questions in very broad strokes, and then it will be up to the elected people in this call to decide collectively if you would like it in fine strokes. And so in broad strokes, we will be able to show you what, you know, an approximated levy rate and approximated benefits charge could produce, and how it would maintain the level of service in both communities. And then to go further, to understand the impact at the single family homeowner level, at the business owner level, at a property owner level, we would need more meetings and the assistance of a finance professional to get that level of detail. And we all understand that we have to have that information before we make a decision. But we as a group have to decide to go that far first, if that makes sense. So that's the plan for next Friday.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, Council President Stonecipher. Good to see you. We are in the wrap-up call.
Oh, shoot. Where will I be able to see the recording of the meeting?
Councilmember Stonecipher, I will send you the link to our website, and we post the meetings there, so you'll be able to watch the recording there.
Very good. Thank you.
We didn't talk about you very much.
Any other closing comments from Commissioner Merritt, Councilmember Bader? Anything you would like to add on the way out the door here?
Nope, I don't have any comments or questions.
Thank you.
No comments or questions. Thanks.
All righty.
All right, then hearing none for Fire District 4, if we're ready. Are we ready, Karen?
I think so. Okay,
we will close this special meeting of the Fire District 4 Commissioners at 14:17 hours.
And I think that does it for the rest of us. We will see you next Friday. We probably will not escape in 50 minutes as we did today, but I'm looking forward to the presentation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all then. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.